the meeting starts, I guess.
No problem, Mark.
Yeah.
You there, Fafs?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And Mark mentioned he's in transit, so he's gonna just stay muted for the time being. Do we need or want to go through and do any quick introductions? I think we all know each other.
I agree.
All right. Boom. I just needed a little bit of affirmation. Any changes needed for the December 22 meeting minutes? All right. Seems like no. Do we been a little while since I've been here. I apologize. So do we need a motion to accept the December meeting minutes?
We do not. Just hearing
No.
that there are
Oh.
no suggestions is enough for consent or approval.
All right, we've consented. Anything new on the treasurer's report, Abra? Okay, if there isn't.
No, nothing new. Same as always, $722.
Boom. All right, great. Discussions. So new housing plan for 11th Ave. Who wants to take this one away?
I'm taking notes. Would anybody else who was at that meeting mind sharing a little bit?
Sure, I can, it's Karen here, I can
Thanks,
do it.
Karen.
And
Thanks, Karen.
sorry, my internet's acting wonky, so I can't do the camera.
Don't worry.
So we had a meeting with folks from the housing department, and they are planning a meeting for March, and we don't have the exact date. But this would be with the developer to get more public input for the project that is for 11th Avenue and First Street. That said, we've gotten a lot of input already. And we've kind of sent them, our thoughts and plans, and that's what they used as the basis for their request for qualifications. So the idea, what they want to do is make sure, since there's new people in the neighborhood, that we had sent in those plans and all of that, they want to make sure, they don't want to, like, down the road hear someone say, I wasn't a part of that, I didn't have an opportunity to give my thoughts on that. So this is not getting into the details of like what color the houses will be painted. It's not getting to that level. It's more about kind of massing and overall look and feel for it. There's another affordable housing project that is also happening in Menlo Park, and that was also given to the same developer. So while they want to try and that developer, so Corky Poster is part of it. He's kind of the local contingent to it, but the developer themselves are up in Phoenix. So they don't want to make them come 50 million times, but at the same time, they did run into some issues with the property in Menlo Park. I have not found out what those issues are. It might involve some contamination of some sort that the city is responsible for cleaning up. So while they wanted to try and do it as kind of, okay, like a weekend's worth of meetings, they might not be able to do that. So we don't have dates yet.
Okay.
But we decided, because time is of the essence in terms of the way things go, there's like a shot clock, like basketball. So when things get to a certain point, and then they want to, get mayor and council approval for them, they have a certain number of days from, once the clock starts to be able to do that. And when I explained that we only meet once a month, and like this, subcommittee people can't make decisions, that it has to be that we have to vote on it as a neighborhood, to make sure that we approve the plans too. So for the next 5-6 months, this is always going to be a topic on the agenda, because we want to make sure that we don't screw up and not vote when we might need to vote on something quickly. So there might not be anything new, or there might be something new, but it's going to be on the agenda for the next few months, just in case there is something that they want to bring to us that we would then need to vote on, that can then be presented before mayor and council.
Okay, so we're just on standby in a way.
Until we hear, so there should be a meeting, there should be a public meeting in March. We talked about the fact that like not a gazillion people come to our neighborhood meeting, and that maybe it would be good to have it at another time, another place. We talked about Whistle Stop, we talked about Dunbar, but we also talked about actually having it at the site as a possibility, so people could, they can have images and you'd be at the site and actually looking at stuff, and you might be able to get a better sense of things. So still waiting. There is someone new, and FAFS, if you can, I want to say her name is Sarah, and FAFS, maybe you remember her name better than I do.
Yes,
She's the one.
that's Sarah Megison.
Yeah, so she's the one that's kind of shepherding this project at this point. And I was really impressed with her in our meeting. I felt really, she used to live here, moved away, did this kind of work, and now is back. And I was, and I will speak for Natasha too, because we talked after the meeting, like she also was impressed with her in terms of how she came across and the kinds of things that she was saying. So that felt good.
Yep, I agree with that. Thanks for that that report back, Karen. I was also impressed with Sarah, and it seems like they're moving forward deliberately.
Any questions?
Well, one other thing that I will say is that they are very much aware that this is affordable housing in perpetuity.
Okay.
This is not, that is something that is extremely important to us, and they are still trying to figure out how to make that happen. Both legally from what the city can do and what that looks like kind of structurally by numbers, but they know that that is very important to us, that it is in perpetuity.
Questions for Karen or FAFS from the broader group?
Cool. The last bit I'll share is that for that meeting, I think we settled on maybe trying to do a Saturday during the day, but if it's not available, I also asked if you're not available to join that meeting, and we haven't announced the time yet, or they haven't announced the time yet. If you're not able to join that meeting, I have asked them to do a video presentation that we would be able to distribute, because that would make it more accessible to the neighborhood. So even if you can't make that meeting, you'll be able to get the lowdown on the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Downtown links. Everybody's favorite topic. Who's giving us this downtown links lowdown?
I put that in the agenda because people had asked about it. I did not do any work to bring downtown links here this month, so
Yeah.
I don't.
This is Mark. I have a few questions. I don't know if is anybody on the call from the city?
Let's see, but Mike has his hand up as well. Mike, do you have more questions, or do you have something that might help in this discussion?
Well, I have some things that I could relay. I have been emailing with the city a lot
Okay.
about this, sending lots of emails, talking to Andy Beamish, who's the bicycle and pedestrian planner. So I'll just give you a little bit of updates and things that I've heard. Specifically about, well, mostly about the bikes. They're aware of the cut through traffic. I went down and harassed Sam, the director of transportation, on that Sunday thing where they were like, "Oh, look at how great this is for bikes." And it was awful. And he said that they're aware of the cut through traffic and that they're going to look at some solutions, maybe considering putting back the signs that were the local traffic only that don't really do anything anyway, but something. So the only real update I have about is bike stuff. However, if you rode it, you would see that basically from our neighborhood, once it's there's someone here.
Yeah.
That's good. So I do hear that the city is planning on trying to recreate the connection that they took out, that would go from 7th by Borderlands, where the path currently ends, and you have to take the Hawk to reinstate that path to under 6th Street, so we can actually make the connection without having to cross all the major roads. So that's the only piece that I've heard, and that they're very aware that the cut through traffic is a problem in our neighborhood.
Thank you for that, Mike. And we have Floor here, and she, of course, said, Floor with Ward 1 office, and she's noting questions regarding downtown links. Mark posted in chat, how many cars per day are expected on the road? Mark, if you can get on, clarify, do you mean on the whole kind of section of downtown links?
Yeah, so here's my thinking.
Okay.
I'm assuming they have data regarding the traffic to be anticipated on the road, maybe long-term, but what we really care about is between now and when it continues on past Stone, right? So what's the expected car count? What do they want drivers to do when they get to the T at Stone? Because to me, they're dumping people at that T intersection with no instruction of how to get where they might be trying to go. There is a little tiny sign that I think is embarrassing. And then there's just been no plan published for actually guiding traffic that they are now have. And I've been out of town since it was opened, but I assume people are starting to go straight at Broadway and end up at the T. And what are they supposed to do? So those are my main questions, because the volume of traffic, I assume they know, and that they're actually allowing and promoting that cars end up at a T intersection with no leadership or management of the situation is outrageous to me. And in my opinion, if a month goes by and it's like it has been, I suggest we go all in on an outraged PR campaign, and it's the road to nowhere. They're creating unsafe situations in our neighborhood, and that we should say it's just unacceptable.
Karen, you want to follow on that point? Thank you, Mark.
Well, that and others. So Kylie Walzak is the president over at Menlo Park, and she had kind of also started an email thread that I got involved with, and I sent to the engineer in charge of the project, and also to Sam Credio in charge of TDOT, and various other people. So there are things, I actually drove the road on Sunday because I want both directions, because I kind of wanted to see what it was like to drive it. And there is no way anyone is going 30 miles per hour on that road. The lanes are wide. It is wide open. You reach a hill. Like, it's almost impossible to go 30 miles per hour on that road. You know, the guy from TDOT in charge of it was like, well, we can't help what people do. Like, you know, like that was his response. And Kylie was like, really? Like, that seemed kind of not like a great response. Oh, cars are going to speed. And there's just no way anyone's going 30 miles per hour on that road. So that was something. There are a lot of pinch points for bikes where cars would be making right turns, but would not necessarily notice that there was a bike coming up behind them. So if you're on Broadway and you're making the right turn, if you're on Broadway heading towards downtown and you wanted to take downtown links and you turn to get into the turn lane, it's where bikes are. And then to make that turn is right where bikes are. If a bike wanted to continue downtown, there's a spot where you can't currently take the road off, but to get off for 6th Avenue, it's awful. Bikes, like, the bikes would essentially merge with bikes coming up the 6th Avenue underpass. I mean, just in a way that is just, it's just awful. There's, I mean, and then plus anyone, again, the same thing. You're on the bike path, you're heading west, and someone that's turning is not going to see you. And then the third pinch point that I noticed was when you get to at 7th Avenue, again, the turning, people that are turning right, but you're on the bike path. And if you wanted to go straight and you wanted to go north on 7th Avenue, someone turning right isn't going to see you. And even I actually rode the Stone Avenue underpass. I was on my bike and I was riding the Stone Avenue underpass going straight, and someone making a right turn there. Luckily, they stopped. They actually, even though they had the flashing yellow arrow and they could have just gone, they did stop. They did notice that I was there. But that's another place that is just asking for disaster. So I put all of that info in, and Steve Kozaczyk was on that email thread. And he replied and he said, I'm replying, and I've heard from lots of people about this. And he kind of challenged Sam to go out on his bike and ride it and see what it's like. There are things, there was supposed to be that bike paths that Mike mentioned, that multi-use path that got cut out because of money, because of funding. Also that curve where the bikes and the cars would get off at 6th Avenue, there was stuff that was changed with that because of funding. So Sam is, you know, kind of charging his engineers to figure something out. I just don't know that it's going to be a good something or not. I mean, I can't imagine. And Mark, just FYI for you, there were a lot of us that fought against this project for years and years and years and years. I'm not against a big to-do. I'm all about let's make some noise on it, but we did our damnedest to make this not happen and to make it the best, if it is going to happen and they're going to shove it down our throats, to make it the best that we could possibly get out of it. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't make noise, but there has been noise made, and there's also been steamrollering that's happened. Okay. That's enough.
Michael added a couple comments here, just agreeing that definitely people are going to be going faster than 30, and there aren't, you know, any spots for the police to do speed control. And then, all right, well, you know, other comments from Mike. How about Mark? You got a follow-up question there?
I have a comment, I guess, and it's about our focus at this moment in history of the project. I think the things, Karen, that you're describing are all like baked into the design, and I'm willing to kind of withhold judgment on the whole design till it's, you know, like I'm voting for the quiet zone and hope that we get that. And then it's like, okay, hope everybody survives all the speed traps and all that stuff. You know, people will just figure it out. I think we have a immediate high urgency need that if people start adopting the roadway to go straight instead of through downtown, we could have highway level traffic at a T intersection at Stone with no detour signage to go to Speedway or to go into downtown. And we know from experience over the last however long it's been that unsafe public safety is threatened when drivers are trying to self-navigate and they decide if they're going to turn on 5th Street or 4th Street or 3rd Street or 2nd Street or 1st Street. It's just, I think it's a setup for pedestrian car accident, road rage fights, a group of kids being hit by cars. I mean, I think honestly, we should make a big deal out of the lack of an actual plan for what people should do when they get to the T at Stone. And so I would rather not have the whole list of terrible things about the project, except for that, because I think that it's such a huge public safety issue.
Michael,
And what, just one more
go
thing and then I'm done. I think the road to nowhere is an awesome label for opening the road up and dumping people at Stone. And I think the headline is easy to imagine, and there's a PR moment, and if the city isn't taking it seriously, I think that we should do something before somebody gets run over in our neighborhood.
all right, Mike, I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, I agree with Mark about the big thing being cut through traffic at this point, and he's absolutely right. There's absolutely zero plan. They're just like opening it and patting themselves on the back. I think one thing that might be helpful if someone could spend some time down there and just count the number of cars that are turning right off of 6th and then turning left right onto 5th Street. That would be helpful just to give a point of data. I know when I talked to Sam, he's like, oh, I looked and I didn't see anybody doing it. And yeah, okay, fine. We know better. The other piece of this conversation that's going to become problematic is they're going to close the main avenue at the railroad tracks for months, which I can also see that they probably don't have a plan for how they're going to redirect traffic. And so I think there's a conversation to be had there with the city as well. How are you going to help drivers navigate that closure as well? And what impacts will we have in the neighborhood? I can imagine people coming down Main, seeing that it's, that's not what Sam said, Karen, but maybe he said something wrong to me. That Main would be closed, what he told me. So we should get some clarification, I guess, on that.
Tim.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that. Speedway is not set up to handle any more traffic if you're going to the freeway. If you ever drive along Speedway going to the freeway, it bottlenecks down to those 2 lanes and it's backed up, especially at sort of higher traffic points in the day. Adding a whole bunch of traffic that, in the future, hopefully we'll be able to take 6 St. Mary's to the freeway and take the frontage road up, which will function in the way they intended, hopefully. But, until that is open, there's, and I don't think people are yet used to using this new road. I drove it a few times. I'm very happy that I don't have to drive through downtown to get onto Aviation. I don't use Aviation a lot, but I actually used it a couple times in the last week to travel, and I took it as a road tourist once. But yeah, there's going to be just a huge influx of traffic that's going to be dumped, and whether they're gonna start filtering through the neighborhood when they start getting backed up with Speedway, especially at high traffic count points. If you add that on to the already backed up traffic, so that's all I have to add.
Thanks for that, Tim. Karen mentioned here that she was told, I know Mike noted that there, but they're only closing 5th Street at the railroad tracks, not Main. And Mark also said a left on Stone and a right after the underpass is a good option. Yeah, exactly. Any other comments on this front or thoughts about next steps? Karen just put out here, Floor, can you find out about the closing at 5th Street and or Main? And can you ask about signage for what cars should do at Stone? Yeah, I think that's the next step, and maybe we'll wait to hear some updates from you, Floor, next time if you're up for that.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. We have Kristen at the office who's taking over capital projects and infrastructure. So I'll check in with them and I'll probably bring them over for our next meeting, and they probably give an update on some of this. But yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really answer any of these questions, but I can definitely get it to the people that can.
A couple people added here. Can we also ask Scam, the engineer, to come to our March meeting? That's a great suggestion. And yeah, Mike pointed out this is going to be an issue this week. So I guess any suggestions, Mike, or anybody else on more urgent approaches?
I was going to bring this up later because we have a few open house events happening this week on Thursday and on Saturday. I'll post the information in the chat, but we're going to be having departments table with information on capital projects or just improvements happening in your area. And so if folks want to ask the department head specifically about things happening, that will be a great place to have them even give you information or have a conversation with them in person this week.
Okay. Mark, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, my instinct is we should get something in writing, the 3-paragraph emergency objection to what is happening letter.
So try to get that out quick.
Totally. I mean, I think that the early adopters might be trying to figure out, if the road makes sense to them. But if, and Tim, I really appreciate the Speedway bottleneck. I mean, I think it's fine for us to say, we don't know what people are supposed to do, but if they don't know and there's no safe option, they should shut it down.
Yeah. Anybody want to kind of take a stab at drafting that initial letter?
I think we have to vote on whether we want to do it. I mean,
All right. So do we have
I'm for it, but I think we have to have a motion and a vote and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Is there a motion to draft kind of a letter on an accelerated timeline to address the issues that we discussed, primarily the lack of signage at that T, and then clarity about impacts of traffic through the neighborhood?
I think Mark made the motion and I will second it.
Okay. So was my summary sufficient to everybody for us to vote? All right, I'll take that as a yes. So
Before we vote on it, is there anybody that would like to speak on this proposal, to write a 3-paragraph letter, an emergency objection letter to the current lack of a traffic control plan? Okay, I think we're ready to vote then.
All right. All in favor, either raise your hand or on camera or your digital hand. All right, let's look here, they're popping up.
Is that you also, Damien?
Yep, I got my thumbs up here, Mike.
I count 6, 7 with me.
Okay,
Okay,
any nay voting? No naysayers. All right, looks like the motion passes.
any, Mark, your hand is, your hand is up. Are there any abstentions? Okay. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay.
Mark,
Yeah.
would you like to take first draft on that?
I am willing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
We will post that to the list when we send it in.
All right. Looking at the agenda, we had some space open. Is there anything else? Any other items? We don't have it on the agenda, but reports from the field.
I have one thing I would like y'all to think about, which is that elections are coming up in April. And love seeing everybody on here. I'm willing to do the president again or a different role if someone would like to put president on their resume. But we would definitely need a secretary, and I'm trying to think. I think Christy volunteered to do vice president. So we would love to have a secretary, and a parliamentarian would be awesome. Yeah.
Mark also asked, is someone willing to be a writing buddy with him? Sorry to take us back to the previous topic, but
Oh yeah, I'll write with you, Mark. If you take first cut, I'll take second cut.
perfect.
So usually I have reports from the field, the DNARC, we didn't really talk about all that much. But one thing that we did talk about, which again is conflicting, and Mike, you might know something about it, but I had, the city had been looking at 5th, 6th Street road diet type of thing. And then I heard, nope, we're not doing it. Not gonna happen. And then I heard, yep, we're looking at it again. And it would be from Campbell to Wilmot. So they're skipping the U of A area, is my understanding, but they are going to be looking from Campbell to Wilmot for traffic calming. I don't know if this is actually happening or not, because I heard there was a bunch of protest about this.